this reminds me of the early Josh Allen Bills teams,
Yeah,
where defense would drag you into some wins and keep you in some games, but Josh got a little too sugar high too many times, and you didn't have the talent to overcome that, right? And that's where I feel like the Jets are right now. I'm super high on the Jets in terms of AFC East competition because of the way they're building their team. Like Miami's really good now, but I think Miami's going to flash out. Like they could be
okay.
really good here in the next couple of years. They're going all in. Like the trades they're making, the type of money they gave Chubb. Like I don't love that form of team building. I don't think that's going to be successful for them. I do like how the Jets are doing that. I just don't think it translates to 2022. And going into this game, I think they're the most fraudulent 5-3 team I've ever seen in my life. Who have they beaten, Chris? We talked about it on the preview show. Like they haven't beaten anyone. Their defense is good, but they're vulnerable in the middle of that field. They nothing really terrifies me. Again, outside of the Bills' self-inflicted wounds, the Bills could keep this team in this game just close enough, but I just don't think they have enough firepower to do anything with that. Like this could be another sloppy game that the Bills allow a team to stay close and still win because I don't think they have what it takes to get over the top.
Yeah, it seems like it would take a significant number of mistakes in order to
Yeah.
sort of level that playing field.
And for the Jets too, like one thing fans are like, oh, we can't sleep on these guys, or you're being too low on them. They're 5-3, like they're a pretty good team. Their offensive line is in shambles right now. No AVT, no
Yeah,
pressure.
that's
Like you're going up against Von Miller, Ed
yeah.
Oliver, Tim Settle. Like that's gonna be a long day for the
Groot,
Jets.
like
We saw what they
there's
were doing to Aaron Rodgers, and that line's not great either. But this Jets line looks worse than that.
I mean, they're gonna make Zach Wilson see ghosts. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
So we talked about the Jets. We want to talk. Not much more to talk about the Jets. I feel bad because I don't want
yeah,
to sleep on any. I really don't. Like I do try to be biased.
I think
Try to
you're right.
remain
I think you're right that like in the
biased.
mid to long term, I feel like they're gonna be more of a force than Miami, maybe in like
Yeah.
that 3 to 5 year range. But
I think if you
tough to
had a
say.
healthy Jets team with Brees Hall,
Yeah,
that that might be a different conversation because the way that offense was looking with him and the way the defense is playing, like you could string together some wins that way. Like even as annoying or even as bad as Mac Jones was, like the Patriots were still a threat last year because they were playing good defense and being able to establish a really physical run game, which at some point can get to some teams and you can win in the NFL. You can win 9-10 games that way and get yourself as a playoff team. But missing Hall, missing that offensive line, I think just takes away too much of the only things they could do on offense successfully have just been kind of removed from them.
yeah, and the quarterback is a big question mark in terms of
Yeah. But
that
what a
longer term.
draft. What a draft for them this year.
Oh man, yeah, certainly got a bunch of the flashy names that we were all talking about in the pre-draft process. I mean,
I really did. And this could be a team like maybe Zach Wilson's not the guy long term, but this is one of those teams where I don't know who the free agent or potential trades are out there for quarterbacks.
yeah,
But this feels like a team where they're like, if they can get their hands on a serviceable Kirk Cousins type that we're talking about, one of those mid tier guys, that could be enough to make this team really competitive.
they get themselves a Kirk Cousins and they'll be good.
Everybody's got to get one.
Just gotta get. Everyone needs a Kirk Cousins.
That's it.
Doug Hacker had an interesting question. Over under when Josh throws his last pass of the game, and he suggested 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the third quarter. I mean, this might be another one of those games where Josh
Right.
doesn't play in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think that's valid. The Jets, I mean, I talked about this with you guys earlier in the week that it usually either is an ugly game that's closer than we want it to be, or it's just a total blowout. And I feel like this is going to be one of those blowout games because, the Bills had a rough second half against Green Bay, and they want to get that taste out of their mouth. And just unfortunately for the Jets, I think they're going to feel the wrath of Sean McDermott and Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to Kyle Brand's Basement. Obviously, it's weekly viewing for any Bills fans when Josh Allen's on that show, and Josh talked about how in his second year that Patriots game was like, he's talked about it a bunch of times where that was the game that really sort of woke him up to the NFL, and he threw 3 interceptions. And they were talking about that's literally what just happened to Zach Wilson, and talking about how they like him. And so it'll be interesting to see, because Josh kind of like, that is interesting because how he responded with his career from that moment going forward. It'll be interesting to see how Zach Wilson responds to that. And the problem with Zach Wilson for me is I think he's got all the traits that you would need if you're going to have a QB that's going to succeed in the modern NFL, right? Like being able to improvise, big arm, can make all the throws, all those things trait-wise he's got. Now it's going to find out, does he have what Josh Allen has, which is that mental makeup to take that step and own it in this league and become that player in this league. And I think that's what we're going to find out here for the Jets over the next month of football. But what a tough task to have to go up against one of the top DVOA defenses, one of the best pass defenses over the last few years in the NFL to have a get-right game, right?
Yeah. And I know that Zach Wilson isn't a rookie, but he, with injuries and everything, he hasn't played a ton of games.
Right.
I don't know. Would you still put him in that category where, Sean McDermott's defenses tend to really?
I think he's still susceptible to what you're saying, right? Like the seeing ghosts, being tricked into seeing things that he's not actually seeing. I think that he's very much. You saw it against the Patriots, right? Like a lot of those throws, you could just tell he was confused and kind of drifting and throwing the ball out there. And when you see that, that's what Josh used to do, right? That was Sugar Eye Josh, drifting, put the ball up into some double coverage. You can't get away with that in the NFL. So,
or try to throw it away, but then like don't get it all the way out of bounds, which is
And the weird thing, the weird fit here is, and this is the one area where I think that Robert Saleh, if he's going to have an Achilles heel to building this Jets team the right way, it will be lining up the offensive coordinator with the talent or getting the QB to fit this offense. Because that's the one thing is, like, it was like Trey Lance in San Francisco. I don't know that the Josh Allen type of quarterback is what you need for that San Francisco system. I understand the idea that you can get some more out of it and more explosive stuff, but I think, again, going back to, I think you need like a Kirk Cousins, a Jimmy Garoppolo to run that system, because it's getting the ball out fast, making the right decision, getting the ball in the playmaker's hands. That is not Zach Wilson's game. And so there's this frustration in the Jets with the play calling and the results. And they're like, Zach Wilson needs to play within the offense, but then they also want him to be this improvising Josh Allen type player. It just seems like there's like friction within the philosophy on the offensive side of the ball for them.
You get a Kirk Cousins, and you get a Kirk Cousins.
Everybody wants a Kirk Cousins, and then we get Josh Allen and just smoke all you guys.
Oh, man. Would you take Kirk Cousins or Trent Dilfer in his prime?
Kirk Cousins. I would. I don't know. I think anybody could have won with that Tampa Bay. Like, you could plug in
Baltimore, you mean?
Oh, yeah, with the Baltimore. I was thinking of Brad Johnson. Same thing, same idea.
Right.
Cousins or Trent Dilfers. The old Kirk Cousins. That was the Kirk Cousins before.
He was exactly right. They had a Kirk Cousins back in the day. Now they have a Lamar Jackson.
That's right.
It's a tougher thing to get.
Anyone here, if you're not already subscribed on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, the whole Cover One team, we just added a new podcast, kind of going behind the scenes. Some guys that were working for the Bills in the 90s, take you a little bit behind the scenes. We're constantly adding content to the Cover One family. So make sure that you're tuned in, subscribe, like, across social media platforms, everywhere you go, because we're trying to grind for you and put out some good content here. And don't forget, after the game, before the game, the Air Raid guys will be on. We'll probably do a Twitter Spaces in the morning, like we've been doing for game day, leading into the Air Raid Hours pregame show on YouTube. And then after the game, as always, don't forget to join Greg Thompson and I with Chris. Will be there as our producer on the Cover One postgame show. So we definitely got you covered here all weekend, guys. And hopefully we'll see you in Spaces on Sunday morning.